Yeah. Awesome. Nice to meet you. I don't think we ever met before. So I'm Gregory.
You're not. Nice to meet you, Gary. I'm Kellen. Where are you based out of? You're not East Bay as well, are you?
No, I live in Seattle now, but
Okay.
I did live in the East Bay. Are you in the East Bay?
Yeah. I was born in Walnut Creek, lived here my whole life.
Really?
Yeah. I went to school. I grew up in Pleasant Hill, but yeah, College Park, DBC, SF State. Been out here forever.
We had a house in Parkmead.
Parkmead. Oh yeah. Yep.
Like right under the bridge. I could walk to like Whole Foods and stuff.
Yep. Amazing. You in Seattle, what like Seattle my grandma used to live on Whidbey Island. We used to take the Mukilteo ferry. Summer we'd drive up there and take the ferry over.
Yeah, we lived in the Bay Area a long time. And then my wife, we lived in San Francisco, Berkeley, we lived in Walnut Creek. And then my wife took a job at Amazon, so we moved here.
Sweet.
I guess like 2 years ago, maybe even a little bit less. My brother lives here, so that was cool. We're like if you look on the map, we're like north, still in the city. And there's like it looks like a river, but it's actually a canal that cuts across the whole place. And the north side of the city is like a little more residential, kind of like Richmond, Sunset, perhaps. Yeah, in San Francisco. So we live in that area.
Nice. I've been up there in a few years now, but spent a lot of time as a kid.
What part of Walnut Creek are you in now?
My house is in Concord. So my house is in Concord. I back up to what's that area called? Like the old military housing that's all decommissioned and whatnot. Okay. The back end, kind of near like the drive-in movie theater.
Cool.
Yeah. I grew up. My mom's house is near Strandwood Elementary, really close, Lucille Lane. So that's
awesome. Yeah. We love living out there. We both we miss it a lot. I like the weather. I used to do a lot of road cycling. Cool. So I would ride down to Danville all the time. There's like a bunch of rides that lead from Danville, Pete's and stuff. Used to go up Mount Diablo all the time. It was great.
This last weekend it's been pretty warm, and so everyone's and like all the convertible cars are out. So everyone's taking out like the classic cars. The cyclists are out. It's pretty cool.
I was down in Mountain View, and it was really warm. I looked on the map, and I was like, I think I could walk home from here. So I walked like 3 miles. It was beautiful weather at night. It was really nice.
Yeah, nice.
Because typically I wouldn't do that, but I was like, oh, it was great. It's kind of like a long walk on El Camino Royale, which was nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. Do you work from home? Do you just stay out in Concord most of the time, or?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I kind of like bop around a little bit, but yeah, I've been doing my business now like 3 years, and so
cool.
I can kind of work from more or less wherever, but definitely have a better setup here than anywhere else.
Yeah, it was funny. I was worked for myself, and then a couple of years ago, right? So that my wife had got laid off, and she's looking for another job, and she was interviewing with Amazon, and I knew there was a possibility we'd move. So I told her look, if you move, we could do it now because I'm working for myself and remote, right? If you wait too long, I might get another job back in San Francisco, and then I won't want to move. So it all worked out where she's like, I'll take this job. We moved here. Nice. And then I moved here, and I was like, I'll just keep doing my own thing. Startup market, job market here is really different. And I don't want to work for a big, I'm a terrible employee in a really big company. I was I'm much better do my own thing, or worked in a bunch of, small companies, even up to 1,000 people or something, right?
Yeah.
Like Microsoft and Amazon, I can't imagine, the scale of something like that. There he is.
Hey, sorry, my other call went over. Hey, Kellen.
No worries, man. What's up?
That's fine.
Are you guys getting acquainted with each other? Two of my favorite people.
Yeah, we're talking about geographies and whatnot.
Yeah, you see, Greg was also an East Bay person.
Yeah, that was my first question. I got on, I'm like, so you're in the East Bay too? He's like, used to be. Because I actually have family that went up to Seattle area, less and less so. But I used to spend summer vacation every year, just meant drive to Seattle. So some
you would drive up?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a long drive.
Actually, 16 hours. I think about one year. Actually, I was. Let's see, where were we at? We've had a number of crazy incidents. My wife, my now wife, back then girlfriend, she came with us one year and tore her ACL on our trip, so we had to go. Yeah, we had, so we went to some. I dislocated my shoulder one trip as well, and so we had to. I think we were just north of. We were over the Oregon-Washington border and had to go back down south to get to the closest hospital or something at 1 a.m. My mom was thrilled.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, let me kick this off. So we're already recording it. I kicked all of the note takers out because they're not going to add anything valuable to this conversation.
Okay, sorry. So how are we recording this?
Yeah, I'm recording it right now.
Oh, okay. Are you
it
using
should be
like
recording,
OBS or
right?
something?
No, I'm just using the built-in Google feature to like record the Hangout.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, it works pretty well. I did it last time. I was like, it came out pretty good. There's other software I've been using, but I tried this like with a call I did last week, and it looked great. I used this other tool, Opus, to like edit it and everything. It was awesome. I was super excited about it. So like, okay, we'll just go with that. If you pay for the full version with Google, you get like the high definition video or something. I don't know.
Nice. Yeah, that's what you want for like podcast stuff. I don't know what Kellen runs a podcast himself. He does his thing. I don't know. It's like, you know, I think cool. Say that again.
So
what do you?
I don't know what I do for software. I just use normal, like I actually probably like I haven't actually deep dove that. I have a good camera setup, like a Sony, whatever, like FX30. But like literally earlier today, I was like shooting Loom videos for a YouTube video with Hey Reach, and I'm like, they're gonna kill me probably because I bet these are gonna look terrible once I download them.
Oh my God. I think Loom is good for capturing the screen, but if like, so we use Riverside to do our YouTube channel, and it's got a lot of features. If you have a, like one that you're excited about and you're serious about producing great content, I would recommend it. It has a lot of features.
Cool.
It gives you a lot of options with like editing, audio boost.
It can do parallel, because what I would love is one that gives me my screen plus like the raw video of myself, continuous both. So that you
it has some features. There's a number of ways to do that. I think that one is hard. It depends what you want. There's a lot of ways to set it up. We could talk about it.
Yeah.
Some other time.
I come from a hi-fi background. My dad was like he was Macintosh's top sales rep one year, way back in the day.
Cool. Well, I sent you the questions in advance. Like they're just talking points. I think what's important is like we don't go too far down into one topic. Like we want to create 1 to 3 minute videos, even shorter. People just don't have the attention span anymore, in spite of what I would like to do. That's been my finding. So that's why
I shared your LinkedIn playbook with Greg, by the way.
Yeah, I read through the whole thing before the call. Like, so yeah, I think it's excellent. There's a lot. I mean, a lot is like very obvious, I think, to some degree, but it was nice to see it all.
Too. Yeah, I think it's something I like. Yeah. I actually intend to do a better job of like keeping up with comprehensive content guides in the future.
It's very hard to find because I bookmarked it and I forgot about it, and I'm like, why can't I find this on the DLab website? It must be here someplace. And then it's like finally,
I do a terrible job at keeping things available.
Yeah.
Why don't we use that to transition into the talk? So the first question I had was about how B2B teams are using LinkedIn, but I want to focus on the intent signal part and perhaps get away from some of the more tactical things. We can go to those later. But when it comes to like signals, I'm curious to hear from the both of you, like what you think, let's call it like current or modern B2B teams are doing or should be doing when it comes to like trying to understand signals and interpret those things on LinkedIn.
You want to fire first, or you want me to go?
You can go, Kellen. I'm pretty sure Kellen has more spicier takes than me. He's gonna make everything spicy, and then I'm gonna smooth it over with you know.
Well, I mean, I guess I can give like the context, because to me, so when I hear signal, two things comes to mind, right? It's kind of like the first thing is what I call kind of like this commoditized term that a lot of people chase, right? So there's like products where it's like subscribe to this signal. Everyone who sells this audience has the same thing. The moment that hits, you are one of tons of messages hitting at the same time. And it can be really hard to differentiate, especially because the logic off of a signal often is the same, right? So if it's like, hey, I saw you're hiring this, I bet that means you're focused on X, we help with Y. Is that interesting? And it's kind of like it doesn't cut through. There's no pattern interrupt. What I think is effective for signals is basically looking for people. Like I think of it as the market exists without you. It culturally exists, even if your company doesn't. And figuring out where is sort of the cultural conversation around certain ideas happening, and then referencing the sort of like friction that inherently exists in these conversations as the reasoning for reach out. I think that works really well, but it's a lot more nuanced.
Okay.
Give me an example. Like what? I think I know what you're talking about.
Like this is an example. So like if I was trying to sell like signal data, or like if I was trying to sell like a signal platform, instead of being like, you know, hey, we'll help you set up the signals for people that are like hiring more, and you can reach out and say, hey, we'll help you do more sales because you're hiring, which is kind of the commoditized version. I might be like, okay, let's find people talking about ramping new reps, right? And this idea of ramping, and if ramp inherently represents the discussion from 0 to like quota attainment, and then if we figure out where people are talking about ramping and what people think of with ramping, and then if we can take what we do and inject it as a piece of this broader discussion, it allows us to like very directly promote, but it's not like I just originated, hey, like buy my stuff, and says like, hey, I see you guys are trying to solve this type of thing. I think this is how this complements it. And it sort of opens up and creates associations that are much more sort of like engage worthy.
Yeah. So yeah, I think your point is like just like the hiring signal on its own is not the be all and end all of it, because you have to kind of go and then like, you know, the signal indicates something, but you have to kind of augment with like a lot of other things to kind of make it useful.
Yeah, and in an ideal world, I just think of like, so if the pattern doesn't work, right? Like we're trying to pattern interrupt. And so signal, like the commoditized signal worked when no one did that, right? So when every team was like, here's the ICP, here's the message, go do that. And then eventually that starts to get worse. So then it's like, oh, what if we got timing? And that would have been really, really novel initially. Like, dang, these guys are really smart to reach out right when we're hiring or whatever. But now that is a commodity itself. That is the pattern. And so if you're using a tool that automates, this happens, so now we do this, they get a bunch of those. And so you need to look for sort of like pattern interrupt timing reasons. And then if your logic is like congruent, people are actually still, you know, it hits that pattern interrupt, like, oh, this guy's kind of astute. That's interesting thinking. Maybe I'm open to talking to him.
Yeah. I think I think that second part is not super scalable right now, right? Like it just takes a lot of like research and so on. I would say, like, to Greg's question a little bit on the LinkedIn side, like I think on the LinkedIn side, like there are a bunch of signals that, you know, people use, right? And hiring is like a more general purpose signal, but on the LinkedIn side, there's like content signals that people have around, like, you know, people engage with your posts or engage with your ads, engage with your profile, they message you, all that stuff. And obviously in Syft, we track all of that as well. But I would say there is, to Kellen's point, which is that there is a thing where people will say, oh, you liked my post, or the worst kind of signals are you liked somebody else's post. And then you just say, I saw that you liked Greg's post about this and this, and about this topic, and then people go and, like, you know, pitch, and it's super annoying, because it was not even your post to begin with, right? And so, like, I think there are different levels of signals on LinkedIn as well. I just call them like super, like the third category, or third party signals. Like something's happening on LinkedIn, and then you pick up on it, and then you try to prospect out of it, and at this point the customer has no affinity to you, so it's just like why is this guy bugging me about like some post that he was not even part of, and, like, you know, I was just engaging with the writer of that post. And I think those are the worst kind of signals, the worst kind of orchestrations. And then something that is marginally better than that is like, okay, well, they're engaging with your content, right? Then, like, you know, you can kind of use that. And even then, I wouldn't take like one-off likes and one-off replies as signals ever. I would actually just, again, I think that somewhat touches upon what Kellen's idea was, like, you need to augment it with other signals that you might have about that prospect for it to be useful. Like, just because somebody like randomly kind of liked a post of yours and then you kind of reach out to them, generally gets you nowhere, in my experience.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, well, let's broaden the discussion then. So we've discussed signals. So the next question I had here about LinkedIn was what we think, or what you guys think smart CMOs are doing. So it's like broaden it, right? We've talked, that was kind of a narrow question, like signals. And I think the summary for me was, hey, get smart about it. Like the simple commoditized ways of doing it, people have moved beyond about it. So mixing signals, trying to get like a secret sauce when it comes to evaluating the signals is really important. So the higher level, what do we think marketing leaders are doing that's working and effective today on LinkedIn?
I think of that as like facilitating the culture. And so to me, it sincerely is like, people don't like opportunistic feeling things, right? And so if it's like Imran and I are having a conversation about what our favorite messaging technique is, and we're talking about like craft of messaging, and someone comes in and is just like, I built a bot that automates this, so you guys don't have to do this. We did it, you know, it's not going to fit the right way, right? But if there is a company that's like, look, we build technology that automates messaging, and we create a community where messaging experts actually convene to talk about the intersection of like creativity and personal expression and AI and technology, and like what that's going to look like into the future. Now, those people can jump on the conversation a little bit, but it's because they're facilitating it, and they have to kind of be careful to curate it so that it is sincere, but it gives you permission to engage as well because you are fostering this environment. And so I think it's kind of like the old CMO playbook was like, how do I find these communities and like wring them out of what I want from it? And the people today are like, actually, how do we foster the community that allows our people to be successful such that when we go ask them for something, we have that goodwill already built in.
Yeah, I think that piece of like creating a space is kind of very important. The worst kind of LinkedIn use is what I call, most people use it as a PR news wire, right? Like it's worse, like, you know, it's just like, you know, like there's no founder brand, there's no like execs don't hang out. Like there is a company page that kind of posts like a bunch of stuff that, you know, like is just very formulaic. And like, you know, and it's like, yeah, we do LinkedIn and like we do social, and then you go look at it, it's like, no, you don't. And then there is like, and then there are some founders who are like, they do some, like, it's a bit more refined PR, right? They will kind of talk about stuff that like, you know, like, yeah, we're working on this. It's still like another version of PR, in my opinion. They'll kind of, yeah, we have this feature coming out or whatever, right? Like that happens. Or there's like some thought leadership stuff that people will do. And then they don't even, a lot of them don't even engage with people in the comment section. It's kind of crazy. It's like, you know, like you're doing thought leadership, but like you don't like, you know, engage with people. And so that's kind of the other thing that I see. I think the really smart people, to Kellen's point, are there to engage. And it's I think it's fairly, in my experience, it's actually when leadership does it in a very organic way, I think it's really mind-blowing. But I don't know how to put this delicately. I think people, sometimes it feels like it's low status for them to do that community building stuff, right? It's very authentic, but I think it's just either people don't have the time or just don't feel like it's important enough. And so I'll kind of see that often as well. It's like, yeah, on the surface it looks like that CMOs and their C-suite is like, you know, engaging with content on LinkedIn or whatever, or putting out content on LinkedIn, but they have no sense of like community engagement or any of that stuff. Like you can just see it. And I think it's just like, I think that's like a big problem. Like, you know, it's just sort of like, you just have to think of LinkedIn and I guess any other social network as more than just like a glorified PR news wire, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, I have a funny story. Today, some guy like commented on something I posted over the weekend, and he was kind of critical of me. So I was kind of like, this is a really interesting sales strategy. Like I posted a photo of my run, and he said something to the degree of like, oh, you're using LinkedIn like it's Facebook. And I responded with like, look, I think physical fitness and staying in shape is actually really important to business. And I just kind of left it at that. And he kind of argued with me. I was like, and then he even like followed up a third time and was like, I want to try to sell you something. And I was like, this is a really strange strategy. So I think like it'd be easy to have this discussion and say like, these are all the things that we don't like about LinkedIn. Because I think people do a lot of things on there that are a big turnoff. So I would summarize like saying, the people I like to follow on LinkedIn, let's say like market leadership, CMOs, they just post regularly. They post great content that's thoughtful. Like it's not like what you just said, PR newswire or announcing events or just really boring stuff that I could just read in their press releases or wherever they post that stuff. They post like thoughtful content and then they engage, like you said. Like I even can understand like maybe they don't want to go and engage with other people's comments, but at least they engage on their own comments and they reply to people and give you like thoughtful feedback and stuff. I think that part's really important. And that's what though from like my own experience about what I enjoy on LinkedIn when it comes to like senior people and how they manage it. Which brings me to like my next.
I think there is. I mean, a related point is also there is a constraint that comes from the network and from the medium, because everybody has a very professional approach when they're on LinkedIn, right? It's like LinkedIn's like your professional profile. So people are extremely polite. They don't like usually like, push back on like, stuff. Whereas like if you go on X, right? Like Kellen and I kind of, hang out on X as well. And like the conversations that are much more refreshing. The conversations are much more refreshing than Slack communities as well. Like Kellen runs one that's pretty big. And LinkedIn by its just design has that, I don't know how to put it, but it's just like, just people are just like, just very, they sort of walk on eggshells on that network. And I think the platform is poorer for it because it doesn't generate that like sort of like, that's that environment for learning and being critical and constructive, I think. I don't know. What do you think, Kellen? Like,
no, to me, like I'm a big fan of anti-fragility, right? Like Taleb, I reference this across a ton of different domains. Like I actually learned about that on Twitter from the guy I followed, right? But yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan. Like I think of it as like friction, it's like competition breeds excellence, so to speak, right? And so LinkedIn has a little bit of that like passivity where the example you just gave kind of doesn't fit this. Just being like randomly objectionable isn't really going to get anywhere. But if someone had been like, hey, look, like I think you could do more advancing like the fitness, your fitness narrative, tying this back to like a marketing principle, maybe that person, like that would be like the kind of critique. Still though, no one's going to say that because again, that goes back into like LinkedIn usually is not a representation of how people would communicate this, hanging out with their friends or whatever. And I think that that's a big part of it. It's hilarious because most people have objections to like LinkedIn as a social network, but then they participate in exactly the behaviors that they'll point out, right? So you'll have people that are like, I don't like LinkedIn because everyone's a bunch of nice guys, and then they're not on there disagreeing with people, right? And then you'll have people like, I don't like it, people aren't honest and open, and then they're not posting, and then they have an alt on Twitter that they're going and so it's kind of interesting because there's definitely this element. Again, I always just use the frame of it, the culture exists whether or not you do, and it is not there for you. And so understanding sort of like the people that are there, like why are they posting? What compels people to comment? What are, when someone puts that post up and they're not engaging, like what are they hoping is going to happen? And kind of being attuned to how do I make my existence at least feel like it moves that forward for this person, for what they care about. I think that's like how you win in the space. But again, why it's so opportunistic is it's a bunch of people kind of like maneuvering on each other.
Yeah.
No,
there's definitely a performative aspect to LinkedIn, which is it has its own little culture, but I think that's a whole different conversation.
Yeah. You made a great point, Kellen. Like, I think the guy could have handled it better, and it might have actually been effective. It's interesting to think of these things, right? Particularly when they happen to you. Like, I think if he had like made the comment and then I replied, and then if he had some kind of feedback or something, maybe send me a direct message. Because he did it all out in the open, and it just felt kind of weird. I wasn't really sure like what he was like trying to get at, and I think he was trying to get to where you went, which is like, hey, maybe this could be. I'm not even sure he's trying to sell me, but let's assume like it was like trying to help me with some kind of content, thought leadership stuff. If he'd been like, hey, this is an example of how I would have handled that, how I'd done it, how I would make it better. Like when I first got started, I actually did a lot of that. Like when I would pitch people, and I would just full on go with like, here's a bunch of content I would write, or how I would the first content customer I ever got, I did that. I came in with like a bunch of stuff, and I expected them to be really picky and be like, oh, I don't like this and I like this, like that. And they were like, this is amazing. You can do all this. They just bought everything on the spot. Right. So I love your feedback. Like if the guy had kind of just pivoted and maybe gone a little bit of a different, like kind of mix and matched, right? Like here's a public comment. Oh, I got your attention now. Boom. Here's some like interesting feedback regarding that conversation we're having. In the comments, it might have worked better.
Yep.
All right, let's do this. Let's move on to like this is a topic I really want to get into, and I want to hear both your perspectives on is like brands versus personal brands. I think this debate is happening all over, not just on LinkedIn. I'll even like maybe see the conversation and say like, I see this as a big transformation in how LinkedIn works in that there's a lot more emphasis and on people's personal brands, on founders, on CEOs, on CMOs, on like leadership representing the brand. And it's almost like the brand accounts are struggling. Like, I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts on that and how you think people should handle it.
Yeah, I think so my first SDR team, like my team lead was one of the first Gong SDRs ever when they came to the States, and like a number of our teammates went there, right? And Gong to me is just like the poster child of like LinkedIn brand, period, right? And what I saw with Gong that I think they did really well and has like faded a little bit is, to me, Gong did a really beautiful job where like Gong was the story and Gong data really was the story more than anything, which was like the users, right? But it's kind of like Gong's the story, and then they use their people as like individual narratives within this broader idea of like sales excellence, right? And to me, it had this very circular benefit where it's like Gong is this entity, data and analysis and insight. And then, you know, you have Brian Lamana, and Brian's posting about his stuff. And it's kind of like Brian being excellent as an individual is helpful for the Gong brand. And there's a little bit of this like flywheel. I think LinkedIn's a little like solo brand heavy right now. You know, I think there's like a lot of, because again, Gong used to be like, it used to be very like, I have so many Gong infographics saved on my computer, just like tons of them. They used to put out like very like novel, interesting data. You know, Lavender does this really well, like Will Allred, right? Same kind of idea. But I think that the personal brand stuff got so big, and some of it's like unit economics, right? Like if you're like 150K OTE AE and all of a sudden you're like popular and have a bunch of brand deals coming in, you might be like, why the hell am I prospecting, dude? I just need to keep talking about this stuff. And so it becomes a little, but I do think that there's like a little too much solo brand. I kind of don't like that so many companies even like compete as solo brand is such a like primary thing. You know, it feels a little like small and like balkanized in ways. But to me, it's like done well. You have a parent brand that has like an authority, and then you have individuals that are like slices of expression of this bigger thing. And I think when you do it wrong, it's kind of like the company is nothing more than the assembly of the people, of which then the company's kind of nothing. And especially like, you know, it's like if my team had a bunch of clout and I had none, I'd be terrified. You know, that is not a good place to be. You're in a sketchy spot versus being like, we have clout that we can distribute to the team and create, you know, again, this like sort of circular effect.
Yeah, I think there is so when you say there is a lot of solo brand, as in you're saying the solo brand's cloud doesn't accrue to the company. Is that the issue?
I don't think, look, I mean, like, I think Brian, a lot of these people actually have affiliates now with like training programs. So when I think of Brian Lamana, I'm thinking more of like his modules with 30 minutes President's Club or whatever. Then I have Gong, you know? And so I think it's like, so it's exactly what you just said, where it's like the individual becomes a little bit of the whole story. And if you kind of just think of like scalability and deliverability, it's kind of like that actually isn't going to work. And so you do need like an entity that can deliver the value. Otherwise it just becomes kind of like, you know, it's like a Disneyland, like, can you know, sign my little passport book thing, you know, it's, yeah.
I actually think that, I mean, I think Brian and Brian's great. Everyone should follow him on Twitter.
Yeah, I love Brian.
But like I think a lot of people don't even get there, honestly. Like a lot of people just their employees don't have much of a presence on LinkedIn. It's mostly the founders kind of, you know, like trying to kind of move things forward. Right. And even the founder content tends to be like ghost-written by thought leadership agencies and stuff like that. And then the company page is kind of its own little thing. It's not kind of tied into stuff. Or what people will usually do is like the company page posts something or the founder posts something, and then they will kind of repost or something like that. Like, you know, not much of like, you know, they don't add a lot of value. But there are some companies that do, like one of our customers is HeyGen, and they generate a lot of viral content because they do AI video and stuff. And what they do is they'll kind of, you know, sort of their employees write interesting content, and then like, you know, the exec team actually reposts that stuff, which I think is very, very interesting. So it's in the other direction, which I like seeing. So, but I think vast majority of people, to answer kind of Greg's question, I think don't make that connection between, or don't leverage that employee brand to then elevate the company brand. Like it's like, or maybe Kellen put, like, there's just no flywheel between all these three things, right? Which is the company brand, the founder brand, and then the non-founder brand. Like, you know, those all three need to kind of work together. And I think most even good companies do two well, but nobody does all three well.
I think this is a really interesting topic, and a couple of interesting points came up. It's almost like there's like these super users, and they have like a big audience as an individual, right? But I think that's still actually rare.
Yeah, it's very rare. It's very rare.
Yeah, I think the point that you made, Imran, is that in reality, it's actually hard to get people generally to participate. So maybe, really, right. So I think that like most people who would be like listening to this would perhaps have more questions on like, so I'm CMO, I'm a founder, I'm on leadership in like a company or a startup, right? And like, how do I motivate people to actually participate more rather than just like retweet the founders thing out of whatever adjective you want to use there. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is the incentives right now. I mean, I think who makes this point? Adam Robinson makes this point actually, right? He has like this thing where like I think his point was around salespeople a while ago, where it's like, you know, your personal brand is what's going to help you sell more. And so I think that there are certain roles where it's very well aligned. That if you create your own personal brand and then help the company along with it, it actually makes you more successful, right? Because like if you are in, like Brian is like, for example, in sales, and if you get a connection request from Brian, and let's say he was like prospecting into your account, he would actually have a much higher chance of like, you know, getting an accept because he has brand, you know, he kind of, and so he benefits in his job because of that brand. And I think there are certain roles where the incentives align. I don't know if it's true for other roles at the company, right? So I think people just have to figure out who in their company, more on the front lines, customer facing, you know, customer success people. Like I think a lot of go-to-market folks, right? Marketing, product marketing, sales. They need to kind of come up with like some sort of a mechanism via which some of these roles kind of start participating. But I don't think it's all roles, honestly. And I don't even think that it's all. I think it needs to start at the top. Like you can't expect an SDR or an AE to kind of put stuff out there when your CRO is kind of silent on the platform. Like it just needs to come from the top. So that was my other kind of point.
I would add too, just like consistent, like to me from like a coaching perspective, I would just think of it as like be consistent first, then be good. Right. And I think like, you know, everyone's been in the seat of like, oh, I don't know what to write, you know, and I think most people should not try to accomplish so much. You know what I mean? Like if I was getting like an employee posting program, I would probably do like benefits off of consistency. Like once you hit this many days in a row, you get this little thing or whatever. Because I think, you know, it's like you could take like the greatest post ever. If you've never posted before, no one's going to see it. So it doesn't matter. Right. So it's like a lot, you know, there's so much going on with like the algorithm. And I think a lot of people, you know, if you're some random person and your manager's like, start posting, we're going to help you sell more. And you're like stressed out about making your calls and stuff, you know, 2 weeks later, you're like, yo, this doesn't help. Right. And the thing, like, I know for myself, I at some point just like literally when I started posting, what I would do is I sold to cybersecurity. And I would go to, there's a number of like aggregator sites and find a breach that was posted. And I would post about it with a little bit of commentary, which was super dumb. Like that's like one, yeah. But it was at least an attempt at being in a conversation. Now it was way too like, here's this thing, here's what our company would have done, which is like not the way to do it. But I just think it's like, if I hadn't been terrible for a long time, many months, I would have never gotten to be okay. And if I never got okay, I couldn't be good. If you can't be good, you can't, start to do some stuff. And so I think that that's, and that's why I actually super agree with, like, it needs to come from the top, because it's like, I want to see my CMO stumbling through this as well. I want to see them.
Right. Yeah.
That makes me go like, oh, okay, that's not too bad.
Yeah, and it's like, I think it's like I had the same fright, and then like I still do sometimes, but like I think mostly it's like the algorithm is very forgiving, because it's like first of all, the algorithm actually a lot of people are like more like, okay, well, what will my network think of this, right? Like, I'm posting stuff, and like people have a lot of that going on, but over a period of time, the LinkedIn algorithm actually routes your content to people who might like that content. So like, if so you don't have to worry about that part at all, right? Like, just like, it's not going to show your, post with 3 likes to your mom. Like, it's just not, it's that it doesn't work that way. And so like, it's like, so I don't, there is nothing to fear, right? It's like, okay, even if 3 people liked it, those 3 actually were like, in your target account. Over a period of time, the more you post, the algorithm actually zooms in on like where it needs to go, to Kellen's point. And I think that's where actually the consistency comes in, right? Like, you have to write a lot to find your tribe, so to speak. And then once you find your tribe, it's like, and I think then like then it kind of picks up from there.
Yeah, I think it's all really good feedback. I agree with the consistency piece. That's more important than like, or I actually think you put it well, and I would like just double down on that. Like, in fact, like trying to aim for like this like amazing singular piece, I think is the wrong way to go about it. I would try to think about like, how can I post in a consistent way? I think in the beginning, when I had the tendency to like want to just do this like really in-depth thing, is maybe even do that piece, but then think about how I can distribute that over time. So maybe I think I even did at one point, like, do this like in-depth research report on AI or something. And then I broke it down into like lots of different elements, because that's exactly what I think everyone finds when they first start, is like, oh, you post one thing and it's just crickets, and then you post again and it's like, you're like, no one finds it. There's no likes, right? So you keep and you realize that like it's about building an audience over time, and you do that through repetition. So you're never going to have this like breakout post that just makes everything I think work. Go ahead.
That another point on that is just that the thing that people take from your posting also is not acute to a single post. Like, I've never had one post and someone like, I've never heard of you before. I saw this one post. This was really cool. So I came inbound, right? Usually it's like, hey, I saw you posting for 4 months and I really started paying attention. And then I started commenting a little bit, and I'm finally DMing you, and you don't know it yet, but I've already pitched you to these 3 friends, and and it's like so much more. And so I think, and in that way, you can kind of look at it like, if you're sitting there posting thinking, I'm only going to do this because I think very quickly I'm going to get something super transactionally back, you don't deserve it. And the person that shows up for 6 months straight, I basically don't see fail. And it's usually not so linear as like, I posted to do this, I got this, and now I walk away. But it's like, I spun my wheels for a while, someone noticed me and offered me this job or whatever.
Oh my God.
And the other thing is, actually, it's okay to repeat yourself on social, right? Like, it's like, there is no, like, you might write like a really good post, but it's just the timing's off, or like, whatever, like, and I think a lot of good people do this very well, which is that, like, they have 2 or 3 really core good ideas, and you just have to repeat them to the world in lots of different variations, as Kellen was saying, for 4 months, right? Like, you just kind of, and then it sticks at some point. And so it's like, it's like any other thing, like, especially in leadership, as they say, like, you have to repeat the same message a god awful number of times before it sticks. And I think it's the same idea. You just have to you have to be consistent, and you have to be consistently on message, right? Now, you don't have to rewrite or post the same thing over and over again, but you just have like lots of different variations that you could, like, if you are out of ideas, then you can always, one tactic that I use is like, you can always go, I take in LinkedIn, this is like tactical advice, you can export your posts that you have written, right? And you can always throw it in Claude or ChatGPT, and then figure out, like, what I could recycle, what I thought was interesting but didn't get a lot of engagement, and then you can kind of bring in some of the points forward for a new post. So you can do a lot of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I like where this conversation is headed. So why don't we get into more tactical stuff? I think we talked on the strategic side a bit. Kellen, I read actually your entire guide, but you had some really good feedback, I think, on some of the basics, like when it comes to connection requests. And why don't we maybe start there? Because I actually think there's a lot of insights we can provide based on the like not so great connection requests I get. I feel like there's an opportunity out there to educate people on how they could get more value out of them, both as making them and as receiving them.
Yeah. First of all, thank you. Yeah. So, I mean, my general premise when I think of messaging is there's like the inclusion of good things and the exclusion of bad things, right? And I call the bad things landmines. Like there's things you do, you step on the landmine, boom, blows up, right? And so there's certain things that are landmines in messaging. And in the LinkedIn beats are basically like connect, like a first message. Sometimes those are merged together, sometimes they're separate, but so it's like there's there's the connect to accept, there's a message, and then there's kind of like follow-ups. And so I think the like mistake that a lot of people make is pitching in their connection request that makes it easy to not do the thing you want, right? So they probably just don't accept it, as an example. If they don't accept it, you don't get to keep messaging them. You end up in the space where they hit ignore or whatever, right? And so that's so to me, when I think of connect requests, like if I'm trying to maximize the amount of people to connect to me, I either do blank, which is like no landmine, but no positive stuff. Blank connects work great, I think. And then sometimes I'll just say something like, you know, hey, Imran, saw you blank, hoping to connect, right? And the best one, honestly, is just like, saw we share a bunch of connections. And the idea that I'm giving is like, there is more than no reason to say yes. I'm not directionally saying I'm trying to do anything to you. So there's not really anything to even object to, right? And I'm like very much so just owning it. Like, hey, I noticed this, hoping to connect. They kind of know you're going to have a message, but like, it's just not trying to accomplish too much. And to me, that's the reason. The only other one that I would add is like, if you're those kind of campaigns, if you see a post of someone, just referencing it will work the best. So if it's like, Imran, saw your post about X, hoping to connect, because again, it's just thinking like they made that post for some sort of reason, and to get recognized and called out directly about it is probably at least one of the like desirable outcomes. And so that works really well.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm a big fan of blank connects as well. I think they work really well. Again, I think LinkedIn is actually fundamentally like, if you have to optimize for connection accepts, right? Because after that, like that's your first kind of hurdle. And I think for people to accept your connection request, a lot of work needs to happen ahead of that. And sometimes you don't have to do anything. Like I sent a connection request to Kellen, like we have like 70 people in common. At that point, like, you know, like high chance they accept my connection request, like, you know, we're part of community, whatever, right? Like we move in the same circles, like that's fine. And so there are a lot of variables that go into it. The other one is like, you know, maybe we engage with you, each other on content, right? Like I wrote a post, I know like he has been kind of liking my post and viewing my profile, whatever. And so even in that case, I just send him a blank connection request. I don't need to say anything. He will accept it because like we have that relationship beforehand. The other thing, one place where I make an exception for sending something with a connection request is like I'm offering something of value based on an observation. Then I'd say like, you know, like, hey, like I see you doing this stuff, or, you know, I see your posts coming through my feed all the time. I like them. And, you know, this might be valuable. Or I know them somehow through some third party, and like, you know, it's like, oh, we have some mutual, and so I'll kind of just like, you know, in this case, literally. But otherwise, in vast majority of cases where you're doing coldish kind of thing, you should just do a blank connect, in my opinion.
I think especially as like an SDR, right? Because like you're a
for definitely
like founder title, you're getting throughput, you know. That's even where like, to me, it's default to blank. If blank seems not to work, I would play with dangling a little bit. That kind of shows you understand the world. Like I sold to cybersecurity as an SDR, right? And so if I was like, our play would be like, look at Discover Org before Zoom Info, and they had like an org chart feature, and you'd find like random security engineer that was like directly under a CIO as an example. So they have like unassuming title, report directly to someone senior, and have like a specialty skill. And then being like, Imran, guessing you report directly to, you know, Bob because you're the only one on the team who does X. Like, we help companies and I was hoping to connect to learn more about your world or something. Like, that kind of thing could have a little bit of legs as a rep with like no status, you know, SDR, out of school, 20, you know, like, but in general, I think blank. And it's very hard to just pitch. Like, no matter what, it's very hard.
Yeah, it's no matter what. Yeah. Been there, done that. Yes. And still doing it sometimes. But
Yeah.
I think the other way to think about it is also, is the connection request the beginning of the funnel or the end of the funnel? And I think for that SDR who's out of college, is the end of the funnel. As in, like, you have to do a lot of legwork ahead of time to get to a place where then you feel like, okay, now I'm going to shoot my shot. And like, you know, the connection request will get accepted. So I think that is like, I think over a period of time, I have kind of changed my thinking as well. Like, it's like, the connection request is not the first step that you are taking. It's like, it's a culmination of things. And at the end of it, and if you want to play the super long game, it's not a transactional thing as well. Like, you know, they accept your connection request, and then you kind of, you know, they are in your audience, right? Like, you will post content, it will cross their feed, and then, you know, you provide value, and then like, you still don't cash the check, right?
Yeah.
You just have to delay it as much as you can, and at some point, you know, things work out. So I think those are like two big things that I have learned personally, and I try to practice, which is like, yeah, there's a lot of work that happens. LinkedIn connection request, that's your conversion point in marketing speak. And then after that conversion happens, you still don't, and then you don't optimize for the sort of like, would you like a demo kind of conversion. There are other micro conversions that need to happen after that, right? Which is like, they engage with your content and so on and so forth. So it's just a different way to think about.
I mean, honestly, like, if I'm an SDR listening, like it's like, if you want to hit this year's best number, like, be transactional, but definitely playing the long game, because you can even just think of it as like, if you're like an SDR and let's just say like 60K base with like 90K OTE, being hyper transactional for the next year, like, you can't gain that much. Whereas like those people you connect with over the next 10 years, you know, who knows what can happen. And I literally have people to this day that I talk to from back when I was an SDR in cybersecurity that I treated that way. I was savvy enough a little bit to toot my own horn, but like, a little bit, because we were just taught like, every morning come in 50 blank connect requests, the people that accept it tomorrow, that's who you're going to follow up with type stuff, you know. But every once in a while I'd be like, this guy posts a lot. And so I think instead of like making him hate me by just like pitching at him, I'm going to like ask some questions about an article and just try to create like a relationship, and who knows what will happen down the line. So
this is interesting. I'm learning a lot. I haven't had a big team in a long time, so I forgot about like someone who is brand new, don't have a big reputation. They maybe don't have that many connections, and like, the game for them is totally different than other. Like, I mean, I've worked independently now for like a couple of years. I haven't even thought about that scenario, because I send out, I'm almost embarrassed. I max out my LinkedIn connection request by like Thursday or Friday, and I can't send any more over the weekend.
Awesome. That's a good behavior. Honestly,
for years.
Yeah, awesome.
Like, when I went to an event, I'm like, you have to connect with me because I'm out. And they're like, people are like impressed. They're like, really?
Yeah, I was gonna say, that sounds cool to me.
It's actually so like, the lowest hanging fruit that you can have in LinkedIn, and it's tactical advice, is just like, max out your connection requests with just blank connections in your target ICP, right? Just build that audience. Don't even ask anything of them. Just like, have them connect, and will, like, you know, like, you get about 250 times 52 per week, and then that 52 weeks in a year, you get 13,000 connections out a year, which is actually insane from a single account. And then depending on what the acceptance rates are, but you can get pretty far with just that. And like, I realized it late as well, which is that I could have been just doing that for a long time, you know, and a lot more people. And again, like, then if you have multiple people on your team, then you multiply that 13,000 with the number of people that you have on the team, and suddenly you can, like, you know, you have like, it's an amazing audience building tool.
Another hack there, like, especially if you're going to sell into the same audience, is go connect one tier below. So it's like, when I was like a 24-year-old,
good advice.
I would go to every single manager tier person in IT, and I just knew, I'm like, this sucker 5 years from now, these are the CISOs, these are the directors, these are the VPs. You know, and so I think a lot of people over optimize for like immediate, you know, it's like hyper transactional, connect with immediate buyers, pitch it right away. And those people are also going to like churn out of like LinkedIn use sooner. And so I think the more that's
Yeah.
kind of like having like, it's like cycling your crops almost.
There is another side benefit of that, Kellen, as well, which is that like if I connect with you and you're like some senior person, but then you will see that like, oh, we have mutuals at the same company, right? Like, oh, he knows Bob, whom I work with.
Yeah.
And Bob would be like, one layer down. It kind of builds its own sort of, like the
I-
biggest thing about LinkedIn is the mutuals. Like when somebody gets a connection request, that's the first thing that I look at and everybody else looks at. It's like, whom do we know? And if Imran knows Greg and, Greg works with me at this company, that automatically, builds more trust.
I use a saying called sounds like it makes sense. And it distinctly doesn't. So the logic is like, it doesn't make sense, but it sounds like it makes sense. And it came from literally LinkedIn outbound plays, because it would be things like what you just said. It would be like, Greg, saw you also know Imran and so and such, like hoping to connect and continue the conversation I had with them. And that could mean literally anything, but it feels very friendly and close and near. And it's a little more awkward to like turn that down than the like, I saw you're in charge of this and we do this. Would you like to, so yeah, it's the advantage of LinkedIn, right? It's a little more awkward. So there's landmines that make it easy to ignore, but if you don't hit the landmines, it's actually quite awkward to ignore. If someone follows all the right rules and is really pleasant with you and has decent reasoning, to just ignore them is a little, just like if you're standing next to someone like, hey, Imran, I have a question. You wouldn't just sit there stone face, right? And so I think a lot of people, LinkedIn is not most people's first messaging channel, right? Like most people learn email or phones, and then LinkedIn's like this other, and you can do less and it's nearer. And so there's these things. And I think a lot of people haven't looked at it like, what is LinkedIn, kind of like what we're talking about, like in isolation, what does that represent? And what is like the advantage into the channel? And some of it is, it's weird to ignore people. Even me, I get terrible messages. And when it's like the fifth one, I'm like, oh my God, I'm just going to tell, and I'll just message. I'll be like, honestly, this doesn't really fit. I don't think this is the best sequence either. Like, I wish you luck. And if that person responds back,
people are very forgiving on LinkedIn. They don't block you.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Like they'll give you chances. It's like, oh, you pitched me. And I've done it as well. And like, and so apologies to everybody who has gotten a very, very kind of a pitch from me. But it's like, they're very, very nice, right? And a lot of it is just like they give you that thing. It's because on email, everybody comes across as a spammer because they don't know this person. On LinkedIn, it's like, okay, well, I this guy, he writes content. It's kind of, or he or she writes content that's valuable. I get some value out of them. We have some mutuals. Like, people are just like that. They're more graceful, in my opinion. But yeah, like you can, like I think to my earlier point, it's like also the other thing is that like you can go. What's the limit? Like 30,000, right? You can go to 30,000 followers on LinkedIn, until and you can go all the way with just one way. Right. And once you hit 30,000, then the game changes a little bit. But like, because now people have to follow you instead of you can send connection requests to them. But you can kind of just go very far on LinkedIn with just blank connects and maximizing your connection limits every week.
I love it. Awesome. That was a good discussion. So let's maybe like the last, I guess, tactical question that I wanted to have us address, because I think we're out of time soon, is using LinkedIn in conjunction with like events. And the reason I came up with this question or a talking point was that I think that most B2B sales is maybe transitioning back to happening in real life. I think is the way I'd like to frame it. I remember like a year and a half ago, I didn't go to very many events at all. Last year I went to a lot, and this year I'm at events all the time. Like I feel like it's just kind of back to the world I used to know, where LinkedIn's maybe my secondary channel. It's like I maybe connected them before, and then I meet them in person, I connect back. So I'm curious, like how you guys think about incorporating LinkedIn to like an event, conference, networking in real life strategy.
Yeah, I mean, one of them, like when I was an SDR, again, like so selling cybersecurity, right? We sold to CISOs, like super technical, like huge, like power asymmetries. And events was one of the best plays. Because event is like the physical manifestation of everything we just said. Like, you're already going to be, the way I think of it is there's momentum to it. They made a decision to be there. They made a decision to have these discussions. They made a decision to like concede their time to this thing. And so as long as you're tacking on as like a piece of the umbrella, I think it feels, near and familiar. That's if you're going. The other cheat code is you don't have to go. it totally works because people like events. So if you're like, Greg, saw you're in Seattle this year, I'm missing XYZ, but wondering if we could connect like virtually instead. I've been following some of your da-da-da, whatever. Like that totally works. It's again, that's one of the things that like sounds like it I don't know why, but it just totally
dude, that is an excellent. I would totally respond to almost anybody who did that actually, because I like to go to events. I meet people all the time, and I don't like the typical pitch stuff. But if someone said to me like, I was planning to go to XYZ, and like, I'm actually not going to be there. Do you want like? I would basically say yes, and I actually don't get that very often.
And you can ask people too. So you could even just be like, Greg, saw you're in the Seattle area, never been before, but saw blank happens at this time. If I spent the blank, would I be burning my money on fire? Some sort of like kind of pattern interrupty phrase,
Totally.
right? And people are going to be like, no, dude, that's fine. Blah, 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 you should make it. And if you're like, let me check with my wife. I have a 6-month daughter. And then if I hit you to the back the next day and I'm like, honestly, dude, my wife said that like, if I leave, there's not going to be a bed for me to come back to. So if you don't mind, I'm going to ask you, like, would you do this virtually? You know, assuming things go well, we find some momentum together next year, like first round of drinks is on me when I make it out or something like that. Like that'll work. You know, even if you say no to that, that's like the seed of this thing that you'll be able to keep following up on. So yeah, events, huge cheat code in my opinion.
Yeah, I think the reason why events work is I think all the channels, I call them trusted channels, right? There's human trust, and LinkedIn is obviously another channel compared to email. Like it's not some random person. We have like 50 mutuals. That is the trust indicator on LinkedIn. With events, it's like I saw you in blood and flesh, and you're not some random person either who is like creepy, right? Like there's like that. So all these like channels that have some sort of trust baked in are like, you know, performing really well right now. And I think with LinkedIn and events, the way like a lot of people kind of use LinkedIn as like sort of post-event kind of a thing, right? It's like, hey, Greg, we met or we connected. We met at this event. Let's connect on LinkedIn. One thing that works that's similar to what Kellen said is like, even if you don't meet them at the event, you could have just said like, you know, like, okay, well, I couldn't connect with you. And so I do that all the time. It's like, you know, I go to an event, like I can't meet everyone. But I get a list of people at the end of the event somehow. And then like, you know, I'll just connect with them. And I say, I couldn't meet with you, would have loved to. And that works very well. The other thing where a bunch of our customers that they do is that they will do the pre-event stuff on LinkedIn, which is like, you know, again, you have an attendee list that you can get hold of, and then you can kind of send a connection request to them ahead of time and saying like, hey, I'll be there. Would love to kind of and to hang out with you and meet you, and that works quite well as well. So those are the two that like I kind of see, like people whom you missed at an event, and then people who you like to meet at an event. I think both of those motions kind of work very well with LinkedIn.
It even worked. So like back when we were in SDR, we would even, because the way I see it again is like, if you think of the market as like a culture and there's like cultural happenings, major events are major cultural happenings, even if they're going to be there or not. So you might like, let's say that there's like a West Coast, you know, like Expo West or whatever. I think that's what it's called. Right? Like you can reach out to someone in New York, and if your subject line, or if you're like, Imran, doubt Expo West is on your agenda because, you know, 3,800 miles is a bit far for a weekend.
Yeah.
However, if we were both there, I would be seeking you out to have a brief conversation about blah, blah, blah. Like, since neither of us are actually going to be there, wondering if like a virtual one would make sense, or is this the most bizarre message you've gotten all week? ? Right? It's like something like that. That's going to hit, right? And that's like, again, it's using the event premise, you know, that would work on. That was a little more email style phrasing, but like that type of reasoning will work with people.
And events also make for great content. So one, like, you know, I mean, and people see this all the time, right? Like you go to an event and people will post like an event summary, like, you know, you can say like, oh, here are the 5 things. I was at Inbound, like these are the 5 things that came up, because everybody likes gossip. I wasn't there, so I don't know what every CMO was talking about. What was that loop marketing thing? Like what was on the ground reaction about this whole idea of loop marketing at Inbound? So you kind of write that stuff down. And so people who couldn't attend, like, you know, they get, and then the people who did attend and who were with you, you put a bunch of pictures or slides or whatever it is. LinkedIn algorithm will actually favor those posts because people dwell on them longer, right? People like to look at pictures and stuff. And so like deep down, we're all like high schoolers, you know, and so and then you tag a bunch of people who were there, that gets its own amplification. So I think events just generate very good material for LinkedIn content as well.
100%. Yeah, I've always been really aggressive at that stuff. Like I'll scrape the entire conference list and do outreach to everybody. I'll even do. I think I did it for TechCrunch last year. Like in all speakers. Like I remember, I was like, this one's going out in Marissa Romero. See if she accepts it. Like stuff like that. And every once in a while, like someone will, and I'll even have a conversation with them because I think what you were suggesting is really important. The context. So even like really senior people, they're going to be at the event because they want to meet people, and there's a reason for them to do that, right? And so sometimes, like if they have the time, they can fit you in, and you can like really get in touch with some pretty senior people. Awesome. Cool. Well, it was good. Here, I'll stop this.
Should we probably